Okay, so recording has started, and yeah, let's kick off. So today, previous classes we've looked at the pandas, library, right? While we work with data with Mr. Chinedu, right? So today we'll be looking at a different kind of library that our next instructor, which is Mr. Uche, would be discussing, right? So stay tuned and ask your questions ask your questions when you have them, right? So I'll give the mic now to Mr. Oche. Yeah, you can go ahead. Thanks.
Hi everyone, good evening. Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Right, so you can just do a thumbs up, guys, just to show participation. Right, thanks.
So my name is Uche Ezekweme. I'll be taking you all today on Seaborn and Matplot Library. So these two libraries are very effective for visualization. So if you want to carry out exploratory data analysis, let's say you're given a data set and you want to see what the data set looks like. So these two libraries will be very useful and it will come in handy. So today's class will be very brief and straightforward. So I'm going to introduce the two libraries. Then tomorrow before the classes, I'll make available a data set. So we'll be able to have hands-on experience and practicalize something tomorrow based on these two libraries. So I'll be sharing my screen and we'll take us through the two libraries. So at the end of this weekend session, expecting we'll be able to understand how to visualize data effectively using these two libraries, Seaborn and Matplotlib, showcase basic to intermediate plots, be able to use them to make basic plots like bar charts, pie charts, histogram. So those are the basic ones you can start with. So and I'll also give us resources to where we could see other lines of code for various plots or charts that we might be interested in. So depending on the project you are working on, so you should have different ways to visualize those projects. So as a data analyst or data scientist, we have access to millions of data. So, but once in a while, it's quite important you also visualize those data. You give your end users or those you are preparing the data or the report for the ability to see what the data looks like. So visualization will always come in handy. So for the Seaborn library, it's an upgrade to Matplotlib. So it's high. I just made few points, bullet points for us to understand what Seaborn library is all about. So high level interface for statistical graph. Seaborn is built on Matplotlib, but makes beautiful plots easier and faster. So Seaborn library also works seamlessly with pandas data frames. So I know from the previous section, we've worked on pandas and also introductory aspect of data science. So Seaborn library is easy to use, has easy to use functions for complex plots. Before we use any of these libraries, the first step that is usually recommended is you install that library. So the installation comes with different lines of code. So for Seaborn, this is the line of code used for it. So because it works, it's built on matplotlib, you also need to call it and also pandas as well. So that's why on the line of code, you see these three being mentioned on this line of code. So when you install the library, you also import. So this is the next stage where you import that library. And it's just like before you do something, you need to get the basic requirements. Like if you want to visualize or you want to work on sophisticated data sets, you need laptops that are up to certain RAM and ROM. So this also helps in Python. Before you start using any library, you need to install it, you need to import it, and you also need to just call. It's more like making the line of code aware of what you are trying to do. So when you call it in the next, or when you are using syntax that are related to it, it will easily adjust or adapt to what the instructions you are giving to it. So with Seaborn, we make different plots. So basic plots, we could do scatter plots with them, line plot, histogram, box plots, heat map. So these are the different syntax or line of codes that can be used to actualize these plots. So in our next class tomorrow, I'll make sure we have the data sets available. So we'll be able to carry out say class work or section. So whereby we'll be taking the first step, we import the library, we install the library, import the data set, and also all the necessary things. Then we'll try to visualize carry out few plots and charts as well. So by tomorrow's class, we'll be able to do that. So this is an example of histogram, what you can do with the Seaborn plot. So you can visualize something like this if you have financial data sets or whatever data set you have. So depending on the data set, you'll be able to understand the best charts that could work or the best visualization tool that will be used or the best library that suits it. So it depends on the chart or the idea you have in mind. You work with that. So this is the bar plot. It's also easy using Seaborn. So the line of code is quite straightforward. You do your X and your Y label. So helps you. So this too is just like the label of the axis. So the X axis is labeled D, the Y axis is total bill. So in the line of code, this is being captured at once. So once you run the line of code, it does every other thing that you need. So for this Seaborn, if you click on this link, it takes you to more, where you could see more plots. So these are other plots that can be done with Seaborn. And each plot has a unique line of code and how best to understand it. So this site will come in handy as well as we are learning. If you have any challenge or any plots you have in mind. So for scatter plots, so this gives like correlation of the data sets. So it has its own line of codes and will be very helpful as we learn. So that's for Seaborn library. So the next one I'll be talking on is Matplot library. So this is the foundation of Python visualization. So this was the first set of library used for visualization before upgrades have been introduced. So, and it's essential for creating custom publication quality plots. So it's still like the same Seaborn. Before you start using Matplotlib, you also need to install, you import. It's also used for line plots, scatter plots, bar plots, and histogram. So the installation parts will be very helpful as well when we install this. and we import. So don't need to look at this, but this is just like a basic, like a tax that can be done with Matplotlib. So this is just a basic stock price simulation. So just to give you an idea of what can be achieved with it. So this link here also gives us more views to Matplotlib and other things that we could do with them. So this is the basic visuals that we could use Matplotlib to achieve. So it's very helpful for visualization. It helps with simple plots and also for complex plots. So if you have a data set and you want to explore the data set, so for exploratory data analysis, it helps and it will come in handy for you to see what your data set looks like, the columns and the rows. So since the two libraries we're discussing today have similarities in every aspect, I've also tried to gather the differences in them and which is used for which one will be best suitable for the tasks you have. So Seaborn is quite important and useful when carrying out quick high-level statistical plots like distributions, correlations, regressions, attractive default styles, no manual tweak needed. So working with data frames, so Seaborn is very effective with that. Multivariate analysis and statistical visualizations like regressions and correlations, so confidence intervals. So Seaborn is very useful for this type of analysis and charts. So, but when working with pixel perfect customization, 3D plots, and the rest of them, you try as much as possible to prevent using Seaborn because of it will be difficult for it. So I think for those ones, you have to use a Matplotlib because it's easier to work with them. So when to use Matplotlib? So for full control over every plot element, the axis, the thickness, the legend, so it gives you the ability for you to tweak some things in terms of the axis, the legends, and also you could include color. So the or your palette, so you could include different colors on Matplotlib because it's quite intuitive and interactive. So for custom or publication ready plots, so like you're carrying out research paper or code journals, the Matplotlib becomes very handy. Also for non-standard plots, so 3D animations and complex annotations, it's also helpful. For low-level tweaking, you could use the Matplotlib for them. Then ways where you should avoid Matplotlib is when carrying out exploratory data analysis because Seaborn is faster, and when working with data frames and statistical plots because Seaborn integrates faster. So notwithstanding these two libraries are used for visualization, they also have their advantages and disadvantages. So where Seaborn is disadvantaged, the Matplotlib is the advantage. So they work hand in hand, and it's very important to understand both. So it gives you the knowledge or the ability to differentiate which to use for what task when you are faced with such challenges. So I don't know for so far, do we have any questions or any concerns?
So you can unmute yourself and maybe ask questions, right? So what Mr. Uche is trying to do is to introduce, the libraries that we will be working with, in subsequent classes, right? Just like I mentioned, we've seen pandas, right, and how it's been used, right? So now we're working with two libraries that are used for visualization and exploration, right? And so yeah, if you're lost at as at this point, just signify just before we proceed, right?
Okay. So for this last slide, it just gives us the basic things we should have at the back of our mind when working with these two libraries. So the ones that are used for Seaborn and the ones that are used for Matplotlib. So we should understand just the basic, and I'll make the data set available for tomorrow's class. We'll be able to carry out some exploratory data analysis on the data set using these two libraries, because we'll be able to understand the difference and which is best used for certain requirements or certain needs. So, do we have any questions or any concerns, even from the previous class, if it's something you practiced and you want to talk about?
Yes, Mr. J, so someone is asking, are we going to use the two libraries at the same time?
So they play the same role, but they all have the plots or the charts that are best suitable for. Like in this one, here we use Seaborn for histogram. That's here. And if you go down, it was also used for matplot, so histogram as well. So it all depends on the best suitable for, but for some complex charts and plots, that's where this rule of thumb comes in, because it explains the best one to use. For exploratory data analysis, Seaborn is quite suitable. For statistical summaries, where you use box plot, regression, and distribution, Seaborn is very suitable. Then for polished visuals with minimal code. So Seaborn, the line of code for Seaborn is quite straightforward. But Matplotlib, if you check this line of code, you see what it took for this charts to be visualized. But if you check this Seaborn, so this is what it took. Just this sentence, and this one, just this. So Seaborn gives, the line of code for Seaborn is very straightforward. X is this, Y is this, straight to the point. But for Matplotlib, you need to consider, because it gives you the ability to shade, to color. So you put all those, you factor all those into the line of code. So I don't know, does that answer the question? Or
Yeah, Sandra, does that answer your question? Oh yes, okay, cool stuff.
okay. So this Seaborn, so this is like an online resources where you have access to different plots or different charts. So It's very helpful and useful. So it's quite handy because it's just the line of code and you'll be able to understand what you need to tweak to suit what you are working on the data set you are given to work on. And this for the matplotlib. So they all have similar, they are used for similar data set, but similar charts or visuals, but some are more suitable. Like this matplot gives you the opportunity, you could change the color, you could change the font, you could use different palette colors and make it more colorful. But the Seaborn is quite straightforward and the line of code is shorter and precise. So that's what we have for today. So tomorrow, before the class tomorrow, I'll make sure I send the data sets across. So it's easier for us to practice in the class.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Uche. So I believe the idea for this introduction, right? So we don't want to rush this particular library, right? So which is why I dropped out some links just so that we can read up on this library, see what we can do with them, right? So that once we connect tomorrow, we can now start going hands-on so that it's a bit understandable, right? So the call to action for you today is to go through those links, see what each of those libraries can do, right? And then from there, you build out ideas yourself so that once we connect tomorrow and subsequent classes, you can now flow better, right? I don't know, Mr. Uche, can you share this particular collab notebook with us, just so that they can have
Uh,
that as a reference, if you don't mind?
yeah, that's fine. I can download it.
Okay, cool. So thanks. And yeah, so today's class is short for a reason, just so that we can introduce the next library we'll be using for our data analysis, right? Any questions you have at any point, you can drop on that WhatsApp chat. So it's true we don't have maybe a community manager for that chat, but yeah, feel free to drop your questions, any insights you might need, right? Drop it on that particular chat. We'll do well to answer, right? So thanks. Thanks, guys. Okay, Mr. Shah, you send it to me later, right? Just so I could share with the team,
Yes,
right?
I will. Yes.
Okay, cool. Cool stuff. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining in. And just like we do always, I would